When my brother walked into my house, he froze. His eyes swept over the empty living room. No sofa, no pictures, just bare walls. He opened the fridge and found a single bottle of water. Then he turned to me and whispered, "Emily, why are you starving when you have a retirement of $8,000 a month?" Before I could answer, my son stepped out of his room. "I give all her money to Madison," Daniel said casually. "She manages it better than Mom ever could." The words hit me harder than any slap. My brother Robert stood still, his expression turning from confusion to fury. He didn't yell, he just said, "I'll handle this." But to understand what led us here, I have to take you back. My name is Emily Harper, 68, retired nurse from Austin, Texas. I worked 42 years in a hospital, mostly night shifts, and saved every penny I could. My husband Michael passed 10 years ago, leaving me with one gift: our son, Daniel. Daniel was my pride. I sacrificed everything for him: birthdays, holidays, even my health. When he graduated college, I sat in the audience in my scrubs, exhausted but proud. I thought my job as a mother was complete. After Michael died, Daniel became my reason to keep going. He was my family, my future, my world. So when he called one day saying he'd lost his job and needed a place to stay, I didn't hesitate. I opened my door and my heart without question. I thought I was helping my son get back on his feet. I had no idea I was opening the door to the worst year of my life. When Daniel first brought Madison home, I could tell she wasn't like the girls he used to date. She was confident, polished, and always calculating. She spoke as if she were being interviewed, and when she smiled, it never quite reached her eyes. Still, I wanted to believe she would make him happy. After all, every mother dreams of seeing her child loved and cared for. So I ignored the unease in my stomach and welcomed her into my home. They married 6 months later. I paid for the catering and even helped with the down payment on their apartment. Madison thanked me politely, calling me Mrs. Harper instead of Mom. I told myself it was just her way of showing respect, though something about it felt distant, cold. For a while, things seemed fine. Daniel visited often, always talking about his career and their plans. Madison smiled beside him, carefully guiding every word he spoke. I saw how much he adored her, and it made me proud. He looked successful, confident, grown up. Then the phone call came. Daniel had lost his job. His company downsized, and suddenly the life they'd built began to crumble. I could hear the panic in his voice. "Mom, we don't know what to do. The rent's overdue, and Madison's furious. Can we stay with you for a while?" My answer was immediate. "Of course, sweetheart. This is your home." When they arrived, I gave them the master bedroom and moved my things into the small guest room. Madison protested at first, but I insisted. "You two need space," I told her. "You'll get back on your feet soon." If I'd known that opening my door would mean losing everything I'd worked for, my peace, my independence, even my dignity, I might have thought twice. But love makes us blind, and I loved my son more than anything in this world. At first, things felt normal. I cooked, cleaned, and tried to make my son and his wife feel comfortable. Madison even joined me in the kitchen a few times, pretending to learn my recipes. "You're so generous, Mrs. Harper," she said one evening, stirring a pot of soup. "Not every mother would do what you do for her son." Her words sounded sweet, but they carried a hint of mockery I couldn't quite place. Within a few weeks, Daniel said he wanted to take over managing the house finances. "Mom, it'll help me feel useful while I'm job hunting," he explained. "You shouldn't stress about bills anymore." I hesitated. My retirement was all I had after 40 years of work. But when I saw how defeated he looked, I handed him my debit card and told him my PIN. "Use it for what you need," I said. "Just be careful." That decision changed everything. At first, he brought home groceries and paid the bills, but soon the bags became smaller, the fridge emptier. "Prices are crazy, Mom," he'd say. "We have to cut back." Yet somehow, Madison's wardrobe was expanding. Expensive perfumes appeared in the bathroom, and she paraded new handbags through the house. When I asked about them, she smiled. "They're gifts from friends." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe him, but the lies began to stack up like unpaid bills. Then, one morning, I tried to check my bank account. The password didn't work. Daniel said he'd changed it for security reasons. When I asked for the new one, he took my phone and said, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll handle it." From that day on, I stopped being the head of my own household. My money, my choices, my freedom slowly slipped through my fingers, disguised as love and care. The first thing to disappear was my sofa. It was the wine-colored velvet one Michael and I had bought on our 20th anniversary. One morning, I walked into the living room and found an empty space where it had been. "Where's the sofa?" I asked, my voice trembling. Madison didn't look up from painting her nails. "We sold it. It was old and took up too much space. We needed the money for more important things." "More important things?" I whispered. Daniel came in with a beer and shrugged. "Mom, don't get sentimental. It's just furniture." Just furniture. That sentence cut deeper than he could imagine. Over the next few weeks, more things vanished. The dining table, the lamps, even the family photographs. "We're decluttering," Madison said with a fake smile. "It's good for your mental health." My once warm, lived-in house began to look like a hollow shell. At dinner, I was given half a bowl of rice, while Daniel and Madison ordered takeout and ate behind closed doors. "Mom, you're older," Madison would say sweetly. "You don't need to eat as much." I told myself she was right. I told myself they were struggling and I could endure it for a while. Then, one afternoon, I went to the ATM to withdraw money for my medication. The screen flashed insufficient funds. I tried again. Same result. The balance printed on the slip read $42.17. $8,000 gone. When I asked Daniel, he sighed. "Everything's expensive, Mom. You don't understand how the world works now." He spoke to me like I was a child. I wanted to scream, but fear silenced me. I was terrified that if I protested, they'd leave and I'd be alone. That night, for the first time, I realized I wasn't living with my son. I was living under his control. I started losing weight quickly. My clothes hung loose. My reflection in the mirror looked pale and unfamiliar. Friends from the hospital stopped by, shocked by my appearance. "Emily, are you eating enough?" my friend Carol asked one afternoon. Before I could answer, Madison appeared in the doorway, smiling sweetly. "Mrs. Harper is doing fine. She's just on a new health plan. Less food, more discipline." Her words sounded sweet, but they carried a hint of mockery I couldn't quite place. One night, hunger woke me up. I went to the kitchen and found one can of tuna left. As I reached for it, Madison's voice came from behind me. "That's Daniel's lunch for tomorrow." "I haven't eaten all day," I whispered. "You already had dinner," she said coldly, taking the can from my hands and putting it on a high shelf. I stood there shaking, too weak to argue. The next morning, my world started spinning. I collapsed in the hallway from dizziness. Daniel helped me up, but instead of concern, I saw irritation in his eyes. "You need to stop making drama, Mom. You're fine." That day, something inside me broke. I realized my son wasn't blind to what was happening. He simply didn't care. When I finally gathered the courage to check my account again, I discovered he had changed the PIN completely. My money, my home, my dignity, all gone. Still, I told myself I could handle it. I told myself love would eventually open his eyes. But love didn't save me. It blinded me until the day my brother arrived unannounced and found me lying in bed, frail, starving, and surrounded by nothing but silence. The sound of knocking echoed through the house that Thursday afternoon. I was too weak to get up, so Daniel went to the door. When I heard my brother's voice, my heart almost stopped. "Emily," Robert called, "it's me." Daniel stammered, trying to block him. "She's resting, Uncle. She's been a little delicate lately." But Robert wasn't the kind of man you could lie to. I heard his footsteps down the hallway, doors opening one by one, until mine. When he saw me, his face went pale. "My God, Emily," he whispered, kneeling beside my bed. "What did they do to you?" He held my hand, feeling how thin it had become. Tears welled in his eyes. "You look like you haven't eaten in weeks." "I'm fine," I lied out of habit. Robert stood, scanning the empty room. No furniture, no pictures, just no curtains. "Where's your stuff? Where's your furniture?" Before I could speak, Daniel appeared in the doorway. "Uncle, we're renovating," he said casually. "We sold some old things to get modern ones." Robert's expression hardened. "Renovating?
She's sleeping on a mattress on the floor." He went to the kitchen. Minutes later, he came back holding a single can of soup. "This is all the food in the house," he said quietly. "Emily, where's your money?" Before I could answer, Daniel's voice came from behind him. "I give it all to Madison," he said proudly. "She manages it better than Mom ever could." The words hit me harder than any slap. My brother Robert stood still, his expression turning from confusion to fury. He didn't yell, he just said, "I'll handle this." For Taman, for the first time in months, I felt something I'd thought I'd lost forever. Hope. Robert didn't raise his voice. He simply called our family lawyer, Mr. Grant, and said, "Bring your recorder and a doctor. We're dealing with elder abuse." Daniel froze. "Uncle, you can't do that. It's a family matter." Robert turned to him with calm fury. "Exactly, and that's why it hurts so much." Within an hour,
Mr. Grant arrived with a doctor who examined me immediately. Her face grew grim. "Mrs. Harper, you're severely malnourished. If you hadn't been found today, you could have gone into organ failure." The lawyer turned on his recorder. "For the record, Emily Harper, age 68, has been deprived of food and access to her finances. Her son, Daniel Harper, and his wife, Madison Harper, have been living in her home, controlling her money and selling her belongings." Daniel's voice shook. "She gave us permission." "Permission to starve her?" Robert snapped. "Permission to sell her furniture, her memories?" Madison stepped forward, trying to sound composed. "We didn't starve her. I was managing the money. We invested some of it." "In what?" Mr. Grant asked. Madison hesitated, then whispered, "A clothing boutique." Robert's jaw clenched. "You used my sister's pension to fund your business?" "It was temporary," Madison cried. "We planned to pay her back when it made a profit." Robert scrolled through Madison's phone, recording every transaction. $3,000 for inventory, $2,500 for store renovations, $800 for a dress, $1,200 for a handbag, all while my sister was living on rice and beans. Daniel sank to his knees, sobbing. "I didn't know it would go this far." Robert leaned down and said coldly, "You didn't want to know. You just wanted her money." That night, for the first time, my son saw what shame truly looked like. As Robert confronted them, I watched in silence, my hands trembling on the blanket. The truth was finally out, but it felt heavier than I'd imagined. Mr. Grant placed legal papers on the table. "Daniel, Madison, you're going to sign a written confession acknowledging the debt, $93,000, and you'll begin repayments immediately. Otherwise, I'll file criminal charges for elder financial abuse and forgery." "For what?" Daniel stammered. Mr. Grant pulled out printed documents, power of attorney, insurance changes, and a real estate form to sell this house, all forged with your mother's digital signature. I gasped. "You were going to sell my house?" Daniel's face went white. "We were desperate, Mom. Madison said we could buy you a smaller place." Robert slammed his hand on the table. "You were going to throw her on the street." The lawyer stayed firm. "You have 2 hours to sign these papers and vacate the property. Take only your personal items, nothing else." Madison started crying, clutching Daniel's arm. "Where will we go?" Mr. Grant said coldly. "You should have thought about that before you stole from your mother." Daniel tried to approach me. "Mom, please, I'll fix it. I'll get a job. Just give us time." I looked at him for a long moment. The boy I had once loved with all my heart was gone, replaced by a man I no longer recognized. "You let me starve in my own home," I said quietly. "I gave you everything and you took the rest." He began to sob. "I'm sorry." "I believe you are," I said softly, "but that doesn't change what you did. And for the first time in my life, I chose myself over my son." Robert helped me pack what little I had left, while Mr. Grant oversaw the signatures. Daniel and Madison gathered their things in silence, arguing in whispers. Within 2 hours, they were gone. When the door closed, I felt the air shift. My house was empty, but it finally belonged to me again. Robert insisted on taking me straight to the hospital. Tests showed what the doctor had already feared: severe malnutrition, dehydration, and dangerously high blood pressure. You were days away from collapse, the nurse told me. I spent 9 days there. Robert visited daily, bringing flowers and sitting quietly by my side. Sometimes we didn't need words. The silence between us was full of gratitude and forgiveness for both of us. While I was recovering, Mr. Grant filed charges for document forgery and elder abuse. The bank froze Madison's failed boutique account and began recovering what they could. "We might get back 20 or 30,000, Mr. Grant told me. The rest is gone, but you'll be protected now." When I finally left the hospital, Robert had cleaned and refurnished my home. It was beautiful, but it didn't feel like home anymore. "Robert," I told him, "I want to start over, somewhere far away from this place." He smiled gently. "Then come with me to Denver. You'll have a new room, a new life, and no memories haunting you." I agreed. For the first time in years, I felt peace. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the city that had once been my whole world. I thought of Michael, of the years I'd spent serving others, and of how easily love can turn into a weapon when trust is misplaced. But I also thought of something else: rebirth. Mine had just begun. A year later, I was living with Robert in Denver. I had gained back my strength, my health, and something far more valuable: my sense of self. I joined a book club, started volunteering at a local clinic, and even learned to laugh again. One morning, I received an email from Mr. Grant. "Daniel has made 12 payments so far, $18,000 repaid. He's also attending therapy for financial accountability." I stared at the screen for a long time. There was no anger, no satisfaction, just acceptance. The pain had dulled into something quieter, something almost peaceful. Mr. Grant added, "He asked if he could write you a letter." I took a deep breath. "Tell him he can. I'll read it when I'm ready." That night, as the sun set behind the mountains, Robert brought me a cup of tea. "Thinking about Daniel?" he asked. "A little," I admitted. For so long, I believed being a mother meant giving everything: time, money, love, forgiveness. But sometimes love without limits becomes permission for others to harm you. Robert nodded. "You learned the hardest kind of love, loving yourself enough to say no." I smiled faintly. Exactly. I watched the horizon fade into twilight, feeling the calm I had fought so hard to earn. I'd lost a son, but I had found something more enduring: dignity, strength, and peace. Maybe one day I'll read his letter. Maybe I'll forgive him. But forgiveness, I've learned, is not a gift for those who hurt us. It's the freedom we give ourselves when we're ready to move on. So to anyone listening, if love ever cost you your peace, your safety, or your soul, it's not love, it's control, and you deserve better. Always.